So we've been talking about multiplication, and the obvious next step is division. But before we get there, I want to talk about reciprocals. Reciprocals. What does that mean? And a reciprocal, so it's two numbers who multiply they give you 1. So the answer is 1. So reciprocals are two numbers that when you multiply them by each other, the product is 1. So I've written it out fairly nice and neat for you. Reciprocal, or if you're fancy, the multiplicative inverse. You may hear that in the future as a math student. You've got math through college, so you've got at least 4 or 5 more years of math, whether or not you want to use math for the rest of your life. And multiplicative inverse might be used in one of those books. You might see it later in this book, but it's really just a fancy way to say the reciprocal. And reciprocal are two numbers whose product is 1. So if I look at 2 times 1/2, well, that's 2 over 1. So 2 times 1/2, that's 2 over 2, and that equals 1. So 2 and 1/2 are reciprocals. They are multiplicative inverses of each other. So we can put that in a more generic way by using a property of reciprocals and giving it some kind of formalized definition. So if we put this formal and we say the property of reciprocals says for every a, and then in bright red I have a not equal to 0, 1 over a exists so that a times 1 over a equals 1. So we're going to talk about this in great detail, but first I want to go back to this a not equal to 0. Remember, and you've learned this before, but you cannot divide by 0. You cannot have 2 over 0. It just doesn't work. So that's why it's for every a not equal to 0. We just can't have anything over 0. So it says that for every a not equal to 0, 1 over a exists so that a times 1 over a equals 1. So that's just saying for any number, there is another number that when you multiply it, it equals 1. And that number is 1 over a. So I want to explore that. And it said that a times 1 over a equals 1. Well, a is really a over 1. So to get its reciprocal, we just flipped that over, right? So if I have 3/5, what's the reciprocal of 3/5? Well, what do you think? What's the reciprocal of 3/5? I'm hoping that you said, and you already wrote down in your notebook, 5/3. And so let's explore that. And let's do 3/5 times 5/3. Now, I know that a lot of you know how to cancel and do that all, but right now let's just multiply straight across and let's get 15 over 15. And 15 over 15 is 1. So those are indeed reciprocals. So 5/3 is the reciprocal, or multiplicative inverse, of 3/5.